How's it going, guys? Rob here, and today I'll be taking a look at a 240Hz monitor and talking about my experience gaming at the highest refresh rate that I've actually ever got to experience. So behind me is the Alienware AW2720HF monitor from Dell Alienware, and on paper this monitor has a lot of fantastic features. So it's a 240Hz panel. It is IPS, so you're going to get that better color accuracy and viewing angles. It does have a 1 millisecond response time on the fastest setting, but we'll talk about that in a second. There's a lot of great features aesthetically with the monitor, so I'll go over the physical looks of the monitor and then we'll talk about my experience with it and what it was like to game at 240 Hz. So the monitor is a 27-inch 1920 by 1080 panel at 240 Hz. So it's a full HD panel, and physically it's very non-traditional. So the back of the monitor is a white plastic and it has the number 27 for the screen size imprinted on the back right of the monitor. The stand is fairly large, so I would recommend maybe a deeper desk if you're going to keep it on the stand, but it is VESA compatible, so if you wanted to get a VESA mount or hang it on the wall, then there's absolutely no issues, then that's something you could do. Dell and Alienware have always been really good with supplying stands that have a lot of functionality. So it has height adjust, tilt, pivot, and basic rotate. Basically anything you want in a stand, you get it with this monitor. Now on the back, I guess the aesthetics, some people are gonna love it, some people aren't gonna like it. You have the Alienware little head on the top right of on the back top right of the monitor, and the stand has illuminated lighting that you could control through the OSD. The monitor has a lot of great features physically. So you do have a nice little knob on the back to control the on-screen display. And there is some cable management options to help really manage and route your cables to keep everything clean. Alienware has always been good with their monitors because not only do they provide obviously multi-connection functionality, so you do have two DisplayPort and one HDMI on the back of the monitor if you need to connect multiple devices and just switch it with the inputs, you can. But they also have headphone jack integrated because there's speakers in the monitor, and you have USB upstream with 4 USB ports, which is really good if you wanted to get quick access to a USB and not have to go through your actual computer. So that's just little extras that are really good, especially if you want to connect something on the screen. The bezels are also super thin. The only thing I would say about having such thin bezels, if you're going to put like a webcam on top, the clip of the webcam might cover top of the screen, which could get annoying if that's something you plan on doing. Now the on-screen display options are very easy to find. You do have the joystick in the back that's really actually easy to manage. So once you do click it, you do have your game settings, so you could change your preset modes. You have the sport mode or vivid and RGB mode and other warm tone color options. So this is where you're also going to have your game enhancement mode, which is a timer, a frame rate counter, or a display alignment. I found for the response time that super fast extreme is going to give you the 1 millisecond, and it's going to get more delayed, but on extreme you're going to have a bit more ghosting, and I found that from my model anyway, the super fast worked really well. On top of that, this monitor does offer Freesync, and it is Gsync compatible. So I was able to use Gsync, even though there isn't a Gsync module. It is one of those monitors that are Gsync compatible if you have an Nvidia graphics card. If you have an AMD graphics card, no problem. So you have Freesync and Gsync, so you do have that adaptive refresh rate. Unlike their previous 25-inch 240 Hz, this is now an IPS monitor. It's an IPS screen versus a TN panel. So this is definitely going to give you better color accuracy and viewing angles. And we've come to the point now where we're even getting that 1 millisecond response time with IPS panels, where that was the biggest advantages of TN panels. They are now integrated with IPS panels. So I kind of feel like TN is going to start slowly getting phased out or becoming much more affordable than it already was. With that being said, those are the biggest, I guess, selling points of this monitor. And now for one thing that I'm not crazy about with this monitor, obviously if you want to get that super fast 1 millisecond response time, you will have to deal with some ghosting. It's not horrible on my model anyway, but from what I've read, it could vary, and some panels are really bad. Obviously being IPS, you will have a tendency to have some backlight bleed, but that's normal with any IPS, and depending on what games you play and what room you're in, It might make a difference, it might be important to you, or it might not matter at all. I found that this panel was really well with backlight bleed. It wasn't too bad, not enough that I would notice it unless I was specifically looking for it. My only gripe with a monitor like this is that at 27 inches for a gaming monitor that's going to be about, I don't know, a foot and a half away from your head and your eyes, 27 inch 1080p, it's past the limit of what you'd want at 1080p. I think the 25 inch model would be good for 1080p, but I was able to get my hands on the 27 inch model. And coming from my 34 inch Alienware ultra wide 1440p, I mean, even if we forget about the 21:9 aspect versus the 16:9, just the pixel density, you could tell that it's a 1080p monitor, but you are getting that 240 hertz. And I know Alienware does have a 1440p 240 hertz monitor, the AW2720HF, but I just couldn't get my hands on it, and it's pretty expensive for a 16:9 monitor, and I'd rather be looking at like really high-end ultra wides at that point. But at this price point, when it's on sale, I think this monitor is about $450 US. It's still expensive for a 1080p monitor, but you're really paying for that 240 hertz refresh rate, and you're paying a bit for the name, obviously, in Alienware. But you are getting that super fast refresh rate, which is going to be an advantage in games potentially for you if you're a decent player. If your skills aren't that good, like mine, then you could have a 1000 hertz monitor playing at 1000 FPS, but some kid out there on his 60 hertz laptop is still gonna own you. So that was fun to experience. Anyways, so I'll talk about my experience with the monitor. So this is my first time playing at 240 hertz, and don't get me wrong, it's super smooth. Like, I mean, you could tell the difference. You could tell it's 240 hertz. It's not as big of a jump, even though it's twice as much as my 120 hertz ultra wide. It's not as big of a jump as going from, let's say, 60 to 100 or 60 to 144, but you could definitely tell the difference between 120, 144, and 240. Just might not be something you could see right away, but it's something you could definitely feel right away, and then you kind of get accustomed to it, and you realize it more once you go back down to a lower hertz monitor. So where does that leave me with this monitor? I mean, it's not going to replace my 34 inch curved ultra wide 120 hertz for sure. We're not even talking about the same, I guess, area of monitor quality here. We're talking about 1440p ultra wide versus 1080p 240 hertz. But I think I'm going to find a way to integrate it into my setup and use it as a secondary display. And whenever I'm going to be playing a game that I could run at 240 hertz 16:9, such as Valorant or Counter-Strike, then I'll just either move over in front of this monitor, or if I could maybe get a mount that I could bring it in front of my field of view just to get that advantage of playing at 240 hertz, then I mean, why not? And have the option of 120 hertz ultra wide 1440p and 240 hertz 1080p for competitive gaming, let's say, which I don't really do a lot of anymore, and I always suck. Yeah, but I'll have the option. Anyways, guys, that'll do it for this one. Let me know if you have any thoughts, comments, or questions about this monitor down below, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys might have. If you haven't done your good deed for today, now would be a nice time to hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and it really helps me understand the type of content that you guys are looking for. So that'll do it for this one, and I will catch you guys next time.